Howdy, hi. It is Deer Job Sports College Football Week 7 picks and predictions. We are looking at the best bets of the week. Let's get into the video. All right, first things first, got to recap the results from previous week. On the week, not good. We go 6-8, bringing our season record to 52-46. Our 6 winners, pretty spread out over different conferences, different teams. Our losers, 3 of them came from a school with a Bobcat mascot. Not particularly enthralled by any of those results, especially because I'm an Ohio fan. But here we are. So now if you do realize I have UCLA and Penn State, I did not give either of those out in the videos. I talked about it in the Discord. Penn State was down 17 at halftime. I then proceeded to full send Penn State plus 140 on the money line and the over of 62.5 in the game. So the over ended up hitting. The Penn State money line did not hit. I do not know how Penn State loses to UCLA. James Franklin needs to be fired and sent to China immediately. All right, so I'll recap these 6 winners, 8 losers. We added $40 to the giveaway fund, bringing that to 110. All right, first winner. It was the U. We had a -4.5. They dominated this football game. After 3 quarters, it was 28-3. It got a little bit dicey at the end just because Miami started playing prevent defense, and then Florida State just proceeded to run the ball down the field the entire time. Final score, 28-22. It really wasn't that close. This was never a doubt of hitting as they win by 6. Florida State probably going to fire Norvell at the end of the season. Miami looks really good. And the rest of their schedule is relatively easy. They have a tough game in 2 weeks against Louisville at home. They then have another home game to Stanford. That'll be a blowout. SMU on the road shouldn't be a problem. Home to Syracuse, who lost their starting quarterback due to an ACL injury. That's a free win. Home to NC State. That might be tough. Then they end their season at Virginia Tech, at Pittsburgh. I mean, they got 12-0, or at worst 11-1 written all at them. I think the hardest game is 2 weeks from now at home against Louisville. That'll be tough, but if you get by them, I think you're basically home free. Next winner, Thursday night. Or maybe this is Wednesday night. Was this Thursday or Wednesday night? Thursday night. Dude, why would Sam Houston ever a favorite in this game? Final score, Sam Houston, 10. New Mexico State, 37. Now, it sounds like a massive number. It really wasn't that big of a blowout. It was 13-10 at the end of the third quarter. Then New Mexico State had a really nice drive thanks to a few Sam Houston penalties, which were really stupid. So they scored to go up 10. Then New Mexico State kicks it off. The Sam Houston returner touches it. He should have let it go out of bounds, but he didn't. So he touches it, fumbles the ball. New Mexico State recovers. They score. And then it just got real rough real quick. New Mexico State wins by 27. Virginia plus 6.5. They win outright on the road at Louisville. I'm trying to find the score of that game. I think they won by 7. So the reverse spread actually hit here. No. They won by 3. 30-27 in overtime. Virginia's really good. They have a shot at playing in the ACC championship game. Their next games versus Washington State, that's a win. At North Carolina, dub. Then it gets kind of tough. You go at Cal versus Wake Forest, who looks decent. At Duke and versus Virginia Tech. So if you can squeak in here to the ACC championship game at 10-2, I think you got a shot. Next winner, Michigan State plus 11.5. We needed every single point we could get here. They hit the road. They go to Nebraska. They lose by 11. Final score 27-38. This was a tie game headed into the fourth quarter. Then in the fourth quarter, they lose 6-17. Not ideal, but I thought they actually played pretty well. In terms of total yards, 240 to 261 total yards. It was really just that fourth quarter where everything kind of exploded. They were down at halftime 14-7. They took a lead at one point 21-7, or 21-14, excuse me. And then they just let Nebraska kind of walk all over them in the fourth quarter. But they covered, so we take it. Next one, App State minus 1.5. This one, I don't know whether to say or not we got lucky because they won 27-23, and at one point they had a 17-0 lead in the first quarter. Oregon State had first and goal with roughly 2 minutes left. They did not score. Oregon State could have, probably should have won this game, but they didn't because they suck. That is now back-to-back weeks. Oregon State could have won the football game. They didn't. They lose by 4 to App State. This team is not good. Will they win a game the rest of the season? Okay, never mind. Yes, they will. They play versus Lafayette at home. Okay, that's a dub. Oh, they also play Sam Houston. They might win two games. They play Washington State twice. I guess that makes sense considering they're both teams left out. All right, then finally UCLA, we had that over 62.5. That one was in the Discord. Didn't parlay it with Penn State on the money line. I took them as 2 separate bets, thankfully. But now we get to the losers. First one. It was the first half of the Bobcat meltdown. Ohio, minus 16.5. The Maction strikes again. Ohio had a 14-0 halftime lead. I watched this entire game. This was brutal. Not only did Ohio not score in the second half, we had massive troubles snapping the football. Multiple times, Parker Navarro dropped the snap, or it was a bad snap. For some reason, we were backed up on the goal line, literally 1st and 10 from our own half-yard line after a really good punt from Ball State. And then we ran it out of the shotgun. Parker Navarro drops the snap. Sihei Bangura just has to fall on it. So then we get a safety. Ball State, 20 unanswered points in the second half. They win 20-0, or 20-14. Ohio loses. Existence is pain. The 16.5 looked good up until it didn't, and then we lost. So that sucked. Then had Boise State plus 17.5. I was actually pretty impressed with how Boise State played. They just couldn't score. They held Notre Dame to 28. But if you would have told me they held Notre Dame to 28 pre-game, I would have unloaded a lot more money than I actually did on Boise plus 17.5. They lose the game by 21. They didn't play bad, though, man. Total yards, 315 for Boise, 389 for Notre Dame. You just can't throw 4 interceptions, Boise State. I'm looking at you, Maddox Madsen, 22 of 37 for 215 yards, 0 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Maybe don't do that, and then you can cover 17.5, you bum-ass motherfucker. All right, next game. We took another road team that lost. Iowa State plus 1.5. This was kind of the tale of 2 different halves here. Cincinnati absolutely destroyed them in the first half of the game. And in the second half, Iowa State tried to come back. You just can't go down 17-0 in the first quarter. Iowa State wins the second quarter, wins the third quarter, wins the fourth quarter. Final score 38-30. I mean, you just can't be that bad for the first bit of the football game. You're killing yourself. You can't do that. Actual stats, Becht went 30 of 48 for 314 and 2 touchdowns. Then you had Sorsby, 13 of 25 for 214 and 2 tutties. They ran the ball down Iowa State's throat. They rushed it for 270 yards, 10 for 111, 14 for 89. Sorsby had 9 for 64. Sorsby is not a mobile quarterback, and this dude was running it. So, not a good day for Iowa State. Wyoming, this was the first time I think I've ever seen this happen in a football game. How many blocked punts did UNLV had? I think they had 3 blocked punts. 2 of them were returned for a touchdown. 2 punt return touchdowns by UNLV. If you looked at the actual yards of this game, it was insane. UNLV total yards, 255. Wyoming total yards, 356. You just can't have that many punt return blocked for touchdowns in one game. How do you 3 or 4 of them in one game? How many was it? Let me check. They had 4. 4 punts were blocked. 2 of them returned for touchdowns in one game. I don't even know how that one's possible. So we lose that. Next one, we had UAB and Army. We took the over in this game. It was no bueno because UAB is awful. Final score, Army 31, UAB 13. So that ends up at 44. Total yards, really not that many. UAB outgained Army 362 to 295. They just had an interception and a fumble, both coming at or on the Army side of the football. You just can't turn it over in a game like this. Army's not going to mess up. They're not going to turn the ball over. You can't be giving away points like that. They suck. Then you have the other half of the Bobcat incident, which destroyed me. Texas State minus 13.5. No. Over 63.5. Another no. Final score of this game, Arkansas State 31, Texas State 30. There were 41 points scored in the fourth quarter. I mean, there was 0 scored in the third. Halftime was 10-10. And it ended 30-31. Good Lord. Texas State, 519 yards of offense. 519. Arkansas State, 398. Texas State had 3 fumbles. They lost one of them. Another team, you just can't turn the ball over. You also have to be able to convert when you're actually in the red zone. Plenty of times they got to like the 30, 40-yard line, tried to go for it on fourth down. They just couldn't get her done. So you're never going to win a game where you're going, what did they go on fourth down? 0 of 2, and they went 5 of 15 on third down. I mean, you outgained them by 130 yards on the road, and you lose. Not acceptable. All right, and then finally, I already mentioned I took Penn State at halftime down. Was it 17 or 20 they were down? Let me check. How many of you guys down at halftime? They were down 20 at halftime, and I took them plus 140. I was like, all right, James Franklin, you give some magical halftime speech, you rally the troops, you get her done. They did not get her done. They lose 37-42. James Fryer, he has to be gone. He has to. Although I did listen to a Penn State podcast talk, apparently his buyout is $48 million. $48 million for being awful at your job. That is what they pay you to be fired. So Penn State has money. I don't know if they got that kind of money to just go and fire their coach. Because then you have to look at your NIL and your boosters and say, okay, we have to bring in another good, well, quote-unquote, good coach, because not like James Franklin's actually good. You have a few options. There's a guy who just got fired at Oklahoma State. Maybe he'd want to come on over to Pennsylvania, coach at Penn State, maybe, Gundy. But I don't know. Can they afford $48 million for a buyout? We'll find out, because they're going to go like 8-4 this year, and he is going to get canned. All right, that's the recap. Let's get on to the picks for tomorrow. All right, first game we got here, it is Conference USA action. Liberty hitting the road, taking on the UTEP Miners. Normally, I would have no interest in betting a game where 2 1-4 teams square off, but this is one of 2 games we have on Wednesday night. The other game is Missouri State at Middle Tennessee. So you're really you're pulling teeth if you're trying to get some Wednesday night action. I think there's better value here on Liberty, just giving the history of the program and really what this UTEP team has to offer, which is basically nothing. So we'll find out which one of these teams is worse. Liberty coming off of a bye week, as the last game they played was on the 27th. You get this weird scheduling spot now that both of these teams play on a Wednesday. So they didn't play the previous weekend. So it's like a half bye week. They've been probably one of the biggest disappointments in the entire country. This is a very proud Liberty team. I'm sure if you've been watching football for a while, you know Group of 5. Normally, the real question is Liberty. They'll come up to the end of the season. You're like, oh, look, Liberty's 9-0. Will they actually beat a good team? Let's find out. Lucky for Liberty, they might be getting their starting quarterback back this week, Ethan Vasco. He's missed the previous 2 weeks, but it's an injury. Their backup quarterbacks don't look very good, so definitely hope he plays. They don't really do anything particularly well. They're 2-0 against UTEP all time. If we're just talking about general trust of the program, Liberty all day. UTEP, previous game, they benched their former 5-star recruit, Malachi Nelson. He went 18 of 38 for 4 interceptions in his previous game. And then they benched his ass because he was horrible. Their only win is also against an FCS school. They don't draw big crowds. No one's going to be really excited to go to a home game against Liberty on a Wednesday in UTEP, good old El Paso. No one's coming to this goddamn football game. I'd be surprised if Nelson doesn't get pulled again. I mean, how do you go 18 of 38 with 4 interceptions in a single game of football? That is why you went from a 5-star recruit to playing at UTEP. You suck. Give me Liberty -2.5. All right, next game we got. It's another midweek football game. East Carolina hitting the road, taking on Tulane in the American. Give me East Carolina +7. Give me the over 53.5. If you want to take the other side of this and you are more tempted by Tulane, you can find 6.5s out there. As of making this video, there are flat 7s and 6.5s available. So definitely try to get the best number based on what side you're on. I think this is going to be a really good game. You have two schools who still think they can win the American, potentially get that group of 5 spot if they win out. We'll see what happens. East Carolina 3-2 on the season. Their wins against Army by 22, Campbell, an FCS school, by a literal billion, and then Coastal Carolina, for all intents and purposes, might as well be an FCS school. They won that one by 38. Their 2 losses were at home against BYU, and then on the road at NC State. I think that was week 1 by 7, coming off of a bye week, so they should be pretty well rested. Prior to that was the 22-point win against Army. As a team, they are fantastic on both sides of the ball. They average 456 yards on offense. That's top 30 in the country. Their defense only gives up 304 a game. Technically, that's top 30, but they've played 2 egregiously bad football teams in Campbell and Coastal Carolina, where their defense held both of them to 0. So if you toss those 2 games out, their numbers even out where they're middle of the pack. But technically, if you're looking at overall numbers, they only give up 304 a game. Tulane 4-1 on the season. They're also coming off of a bye week. Their wins, they had Tulsa by 17, Duke by 7 at home, South Bama by 2, and then Northwestern by 20. Their 1 loss at Ole Miss by 35. That was really their toughest game of the season if we're looking at pure competition. They've been playing in some pretty close games. I mean, you only beat Duke by 7. You only beat South Alabama by 2. And then Northwestern by 20. I think that might have been on a neutral. I forget that was on a neutral or if that was actually in Louisiana. But yeah, they played in some close games. I don't really think this team should be laying a touchdown to majority of teams in the American Conference, especially not ECU, who offensively can keep up with basically anybody in the country. Their defense just has to show up. So we'll take East Carolina. I will also take the over. I think this is a very high-scoring game. All right, next game we got, it is Southern Miss on the road, taking on Georgia Southern for some good old Sun Belt action. This is another Thursday night game. I think I have 3 games in this these set of games here that are taking place on weekdays. Probably makes sense since this is the first video I'll be posting. So I do like betting some weekday games. We're going to do it again here. Southern Miss, their side of the bracket in that Sun Belt is pretty wide open. None of the good teams are really on that side. So if they win this game, win a few other road games, they're basically set to play in the championship. Southern Miss 3-2 on the year, 1-0 in conference play already. Their wins this year were against Jackson State by 18. That is an FCS school. App State by 16. That's a solid win. Jacksonville State by 17. Their losses were to Mississippi State by 17 in a true road game. That's not a bad loss. And then La Tech by 10. Another pretty solid team La Tech is, so it's not a bad loss either. Their offense, they go for 390 yards a game. Defense giving up 397, which sounds bad, but their opponents have been solid. I mean, you've played Mississippi State and La Tech. That's not that awful. All the games that they've won, they're supposed to win. All the games they've lost, they were supposed to lose. So they basically do as expected. Georgia Southern 2-3 on the season. Their wins over Jacksonville State and FCS school Maine. Their losses were earlier in the season. Fresno State by 28 on the road. USC by 39 on the road. JMU by 25. I think that was also on the road. When they step up in competition, they get absolutely pummeled. Their defense, second worst in the country, giving up 481 yards a game. And it's not like they've really played any juggernauts. I mean, the only really stout offense is USC. I mean, you still lost to Fresno by 28 and JMU by 25. They almost lost to Maine, by the way. So I don't trust him. Give me Southern Miss minus 2.5. I think I would lay this all the way up to almost a touchdown. Next game we just talked about Fresno State. We're now going to take them minus 6.5 on the road at the Rams of Colorado State. I have no clue why this line is not way more than it is. Colorado State might be the worst school in the Mountain West. Fresno State has not lost a game since they played week 0 at Kansas. I'd lay this all the way to 14, questionably 17 or 20. I don't think this game is close. Fresno 5-1 on the year. Their wins over Georgia Southern, Oregon State, Southern, Hawaii, and Nevada. So you could argue they've played absolutely no one. But then again, Colorado State is absolutely no one because they're horrible. Their only loss was that week 0 L at Kansas by 24. They have a very veteran quarterback in E.J. Warner. Yes, it is that Warner, son of you-know-who. Their running back room goes deep. They realistically play 3 running backs the entire game. They all get good carries. Their offense goes for 375 yards a game. It's a good mix of on the air and on the ground. Defense is ranked top 50, giving up just 320. Again, kind of a semi-fraudulent stat. Just look at their wins. Oregon State, winless. Southern, that's a bad FCS school. Hawaii, awful when they leave the island. Nevada, awful at football. And then Georgia Southern defense is second worst in the country. So, does that stat really mean anything? Maybe not, but they're still good. Colorado State, they're the opposite of good. 1-4 on the year. Their only win came at home to an FCS school, Northern Colorado, by 4 points. Their losses were week 1 to Washington by 17. They lost by 1 to UTSA, 17 to Washington State, and then 21 to San Diego State, where they let them score 48 points. How do you do that? Their offense is horrible. They average just 17 points a game. Their defense is also horrible, giving up 395 yards a game. They have 2 quarterbacks who they kind of rotate. They're both underclassmen. One is a true freshman who is 5'10" tall. I don't know how you're a QB at 5'10" unless you're freakishly athletic. And the other dude is a sophomore who's 6'4", who cannot throw a football. This team is ass. Give me Fresno minus 6.5. I'd take it all the way up to 14, 17, 20, you name it. I'd probably lay it with Fresno. All right, next game we got Big 12. This is probably the grossest one of the day. TCU at Kansas State. I'm going to take K-State plus 100 on the money line. I mean, at this point, they're not going to win anything this season. They're done in the Big 12. They already have 4 losses. You're playing for pride, and you are playing for your coach not to get canned. I like Kleiman. I like this K-State program. They've lost a bunch of close games. I'm not sure how the locker room is, but if there is one game you have to get, it is this one at home against TCU. TCU 4-1 on the year. Their wins against UNC, who's awful. Abilene Christian, FCS school. SMU, awful. And then Colorado, honestly, not bad. Their one loss was a road loss to Arizona State by 3. Probably should have won that game, but they didn't. Their most recent game against Colorado, they definitely, at least shouldn't have won by as many as they had. That Colorado game, their quarterback threw 3 interceptions. Colorado outgained them on the air, or on the ground and through the air. They just can't turn it over 3 times. Awful. Defense is very suspect. They're giving up 380 yards a game. Every single team they have played, minus UNC, has scored a minimum of 21 points. Abilene Christian, an FCS school, at home, scored 21 points. How are you giving up 21 to Abilene Christian at home? Make that make sense. So I think this Kansas State team should be able to score at least 28 to 30 on them. So if K-State's defense actually wakes up, they should win this game. K-State 2-4 on the year, choked away the game last week at Baylor, losing 34 to 35, despite having a 10-point lead with 8 minutes left. Their offense and defense, they've both been asked the entire year. If there were ever a game to win, it has to be this one. If you keep losing, your coach, who loves this program and has been here for a minute, is going to get canned. Do not let your coach get canned. You were preseason favorites to win the Big 12, and your season's basically already over. Give me K-State plus 100 on the money line. All right, final game. I'm going to go to the MAC. Toledo Rockets on the road at Bowling Green. This is a rivalry game. Normally with rivalry games, especially with the home team being a dog, you almost always want to take the points. Toledo, the other time they hit the road this season in MAC play, they lost to Western Michigan, who is not a good football team. I will take the points here. I think the money line is live. Toledo 3-2 on the year. They just beat the absolute piss out of Akron 45-3. Really not sure how much weight you can put into that considering it's Akron on the road, but we'll see. They're off of a bye directly. They're 1-1 overall in MAC play. They lost the previous road game, like I said, to Western Michigan 14-13. That was 3 weeks ago. They dominate the stats here. Toledo's on the stats-wise is actually insanely good. Their offense is ranked 34th nationally, giving up just 443 yards a game. Defense is ranked 6th. A large part of that is they've played horrible football teams. They played a bad FCS school. They played Western on the road. And then they played Akron in back-to-back-to-back weeks. Obviously, your defense is going to be good if you play those 3 schools 3 in a row. So, pretty fraudulent stats-wise there, but I do have to mention they are there. Bowling Green, 2-3 on the year. They're off of a bye week as well. Previous game, they lost on the road to Ohio, who is the favorite to win the MAC by 15 points. I watched majority of that game. That game was closer than a 15-point loss. Their quarterback just got hurt. Their backup came in who couldn't throw a football, and I think they had a punt return. No, they had a pick 6 by Ohio. So, honestly, closer than that 15 score indicates. Their other losses were on the road to Cincinnati and Louisville. They, kept those games pretty close. This stadium is going to be packed. These schools hate each other. Toledo's rocket on their campus is pointed directly at the angle where if it were to launch, it would hit Bowling Green's campus. They hate each other. Give me Bowling Green at home, plus 9.5. All right, that's going to do it for me in this video. I appreciate you guys watching and tuning in, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.